So I want you to picture something for a second. Think about the last time you were using a really capable AI model.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you were trying to code a simple app or draft a complex report. You type a prompt. It gives you a pretty good answer.
Right.
But then you realize, oh, it missed a detail. So you type another prompt.
Yeah.
It corrects it, but then it breaks something else.
And you type another prompt to fix that.
Exactly. You're basically babysitting the smartest entity on the planet.
Mm.
You are the puppet master, pulling every single string one by one.
Yeah, that's the human in the loop bottleneck, isn't it? We have these incredible engines of intelligence, but they're just, idling until we hit the gas pedal for them.
Exactly. And that friction is exactly what we're digging into today. We're looking at the concept of agentic AI.
Right.
To guide us through this, we're doing a deep dive into a new ebook. It's called The Autonomous Edge, Mastering Agentic AI and Workflow Automation by StoryBuddies Play. And I have to say, reading through this, it felt less like a tech manual and, I don't know, more like a manifesto for a completely different way of working.
It's a very timely piece of writing. I mean, we're seeing this plateau right now where people are impressed by generative AI, the text, the images, but they're frustrated by the lack of follow-through.
Mm-hmm.
And the core argument in this book is that we are crossing a threshold from predictive systems, which is what we have now, to proactive systems.
That distinction, predictive versus proactive, that really is the anchor for the whole discussion, isn't it?
It is.
The book makes the point that right now, even the best models are fundamentally reactive. They wait for input.
Good.
They're fancy autocomplete engines, essentially.
Well, let's be careful not to undersell the current tech, but structurally, yes. A standard large language model, an LLM, it's designed to predict the next token.
Right.
It's a statistical probability engine. It's not thinking about a goal. It's calculating the most likely continuation of your sentence. The autonomous edge argues that agentic AI just flips this.
How?
It's not optimizing for the next word. It's optimizing for a completed goal.
Right, and that's where the autonomy part comes in. The book defines these agents not as chatbots, but as systems that execute multi-step workflows. And I think that's the mental shift we need to make.
Mm-hmm.
It's the difference between asking a map app, where is the grocery store, and telling a personal assistant,
Go buy groceries for the week.
yes, based on my diet plan, my budget, and what's currently in the fridge.
Precisely. The first example is information retrieval. The second one is problem solving. And that requires a completely different architecture. You can't just have a bigger LLM to do that.
No.
You need a system that can plan and remember and interact with the world.
Okay, so let's get into that architecture then.
Yeah.
The book spends a significant amount of time breaking down what they call the agentic framework.
Mhm.
It's not just one black box anymore.
No.
It seems like they identified, 3 or 4 critical components that turn a passive model into an active agent.
Mm.
The first one that stood out to me was this concept of goal setting and strategic planning.
This is huge. In a standard interaction, you provide the strategy. You say, write the outline, then, okay, now write the intro, then check the tone. You are the planner.
Right. I do all the thinking.
In an agentic workflow, the AI takes the high-level objective, say, optimize my supply chain, and it has to independently decompose that into subtasks.
The book describes this almost like a recursive loop, doesn't it?
Hmm.
The agent sort of talks to itself, it looks at the big goal, breaks it down into steps.
And then validates whether those steps actually make sense before it starts doing anything.
Okay, so it's not just blindly following a script.
Right. It's often referred to in computer science as chain of thought or tree of thoughts reasoning, but automated. The agent might say, okay, to optimize the supply chain, first I need access to current inventory data.
Step 1.
Then I need to analyze shipping times. Then I need to look for bottlenecks. It creates a roadmap. But here's the kicker, and the book emphasizes this. It has to be able to adapt that plan on the fly.
That's the part I found fascinating, because if I give a strict set of instructions to a basic script, and step 2 fails, the whole script just crashes. It throws an error and quits.
Yeah.
But this text argues that an agentic system is resilient. If step 2 fails, say the inventory database is offline, the agent doesn't just quit.
No, it formulates a new plan.
Like what?
Okay, database is down. I will try again in 10 minutes, or I will alert the human, or I will try a secondary data source.
It problem solves around the problem.
Exactly. It mimics human problem solving. We don't just freeze when a door is locked. We look for a window or a key. That resilience is what separates a brittle automation script from a true agent.
Okay, but for that to work, for it to hold that plan in its head while it deals with obstacles,
Yeah.
you need the second pillar the book discusses,
Memory.
memory. And we aren't talking about the context window of a chat session here, are we?
No, not at all.
Because that's my biggest gripe with current chatbots.
Yeah.
You have a great conversation, you close the tab, and poof, it's gone. Or you talk for too long, and it forgets what you said 10 minutes ago.
That is the goldfish problem of stateless architecture. Standard LLMs are stateless. They don't know who you are from one request to the next unless you feed that history back in.
Right.
The book outlines how agentic AI utilizes persistent memory structures. We're talking about vector databases or, long-term storage where the agent can log its progress.
So it's actually maintaining a state.
It has to. I mean, if an agent is working on a task that takes 3 days, like researching a market competitor, it needs to wake up on day 2 and know exactly where it left off.
It can't start over.
It needs to know, I already checked their website, now I need to check their SEC filings. Without that persistent state, you can't have autonomy. You just have a very smart goldfish.
So we have a brain that can plan and a memory that can track progress. But this brings us to the part of the book that I think really scares people or excites them, depending on your risk tolerance, the hands. The book calls this tool use and API integration.
This is the bridge between the digital brain and the real world. This is where the rubber meets the road.
And this is where the definition of AI shifts from being a writer to a worker. The author explains that these agents are equipped with the ability to make API calls.
Yeah.
They can hook into your email client, your calendar, your CRM, your GitHub repository, everything.
Just think about the implication of that for a second. A generative AI produces text, and agentic AI produces actions.
That's a great way to put it.
If you ask a standard model to schedule a meeting, it writes an email for you to copy-paste. An agentic system actually checks the calendar API for free slots, generates the invite, sends it via the email API, and updates your schedule. It's closing the loop.
It's closing the loop, but it's also opening a massive can of worms regarding security, which I know we'll get to. But just from a capability standpoint, the book describes this as function calling. The model knows it has a toolkit like a hammer, a screwdriver, a wrench, and it knows which tool to pull out for which problem.
Correct. And the book highlights that this isn't just about using one tool, it's about chaining them.
Oh, okay.
I'll use the search tool to find the data, then the Python tool to analyze the data, then the Google Sheets tool to graph the data. That interoperability is what creates that autonomous edge. It breaks down the silos between our software.
It sounds incredibly efficient, but also really complex. If I'm a developer reading this or a business leader, I'm thinking one AI doing all that, it's going to hallucinate. It's going to try to use a hammer on a screw.
Right.
And the book actually addresses this by suggesting that we shouldn't be building one super agent.
Right, and this leads to the concept of multi-agent systems or collaborative intelligence. It's one of the strongest chapters in the book, I think.
Yeah.
The argument is that you shouldn't try to build a God mode AI that does everything. Instead, you mimic a corporate org chart.
I love this analogy. So instead of one genius AI, you have a whole team.
A team. You have a manager agent that breaks down the project. It hands off a coding task to a software engineer agent.
And that agent writes the code and passes it to a QA agent to test it.
And this solves the context problem we talked about earlier. If you try to make one model know everything about marketing, coding, and legal compliance, it gets confused. The context window gets muddy.
Too much noise.
But if you have a legal agent that only has access to your regulatory documents and legal guidelines, it's going to be much more accurate. It stays in its lane.
It effectively reduces the noise.
Exactly. And the manager agent just acts as the router. It synthesizes the output. The book claims this is the secret to scaling. You can spin up 10 researcher agents to scour the web in parallel.
And they all report back.
They summarize their findings and report back to the writer agent. You've essentially created a synthetic workforce that scales horizontally, instantly.
Scalability is a buzzword we hear constantly, but in this context, it feels visceral. The book talks about removing human bottlenecks. If you have a process that requires human review at every step, you can only move as fast as your humans can read. With this, the speed limit just disappears.
The speed limit disappears, but the danger changes. And I think we have to pivot to the elephant in the room.
Right.
We are talking about autonomous software that can read your email, write code, and execute business logic. If I'm a CIO reading this book, I'm terrified.
I'm glad you brought that up because the autonomous edge doesn't shy away from it. There's a whole section on ethical guardrails and safety protocols. But honestly, is it enough?
That's the question.
The book talks about setting boundaries, but if an agent is truly autonomous, how do you stop it from making a catastrophic decision?
Well, the book introduces the concept of bounded autonomy. It's a crucial framework. It suggests that while agents should be free to plan and draft independently, the execution of high-stakes actions must remain gated.
So a human in the loop, but just for the kill switch.
For the blast radius actions, yeah. For example, an agent can draft the bank transfer, it can fill out the forms, it can verify the account numbers, but the actual send money API call,
That needs a human.
that requires a cryptographic key that only a human possesses. The book argues that you design the architecture so the agent physically cannot complete the final step without a human sign-off.
That makes sense for banking.
Yeah.
But what about social media? Or customer service? The book mentions examples where agents are handling customer support. If an agent goes rogue there and starts promising free products, or worse, insulting customers, the damage is done before a human can click approve.
That's a valid critique, and the text suggests a monitor agent, a separate AI whose only job is to watch the output of the active agent and check it against policy.
Okay, so you have AIs policing other AIs.
It's really the only way to scale oversight. You can't have a human read every single tweet before it goes out. You need a hierarchy of digital oversight.
This shifts the role of the human pretty dramatically then. There's a chapter on managing the human-agent interface, and it paints a picture that looks less like a chat window and more like a dashboard.
It's the shift from operator to manager. Right now, we are operators. We type, we click. In the future, described by StoryBuddy's play, we're looking at a control center.
What does that look like?
We see agents running workflows, we see status bars, we see alerts for things that need approval. We are auditing the process, not doing the work itself.
That sounds great for productivity, but it does make me wonder about skill atrophy. If the agent is doing the coding and the writing and the planning, do we forget how to do those things?
That's the paradox of automation, isn't it?
The book frames this as mastering workflow automation, but are we mastering it or are we just outsourcing it?
That's a great question. The book argues that by abstracting away the drudgery, humans are freed up for higher-level creative thinking.
I've heard that one before.
But you can argue, and I think there is merit to this, that you only get good at higher-level thinking by doing the drudgery. You learn to be a good architect by laying bricks. If the AI lays all the bricks, where do the next generation of architects come from?
That is a fascinating point. The book kind of assumes we will naturally ascend to this strategic layer, but maybe we just lose touch with the details.
It's a risk. But the counter-argument, which the author leans into heavily in the final chapters on the future, is that the complexity of the modern world has already surpassed human capacity.
Do you think so?
We have too much data, too many signals, too many workflows. We need these agents just to keep our heads above water.
So it's a survival mechanism. We are drowning in information, and these agents are the life rafts.
Or the speedboats. The autonomous edge isn't just about keeping up, it's about moving faster than the competition. The book makes a stark prediction. Businesses that fail to adopt agentic workflows will simply be outpaced.
Left behind.
It's not about being smarter. It's about the OD loop, observe, orient, decide, act. Agents tighten that loop to milliseconds.
Okay, let's talk about the practical side for a minute. The book targets two groups, developers and business leaders. For the developers listening, this seems like a call to action to learn a new stack.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not just Python and SQL anymore, it's orchestration frameworks.
Absolutely. If you are a developer, your value proposition is shifting. It's less about writing the algorithm yourself and more about architecting how these agents interact. You're building the playground and the rules of the game.
So systems thinking.
It's a systems engineering challenge more than a pure coding challenge. You need to understand how to manage context, how to prevent infinite loops, how to securely integrate APIs.
And for the business leaders,
Yeah.
the book cautions against just sprinkling AI on everything.
Right, and that's key. The advice is to start with high-friction, repetitive workflows. Don't try to replace your CEO with an agent on day one.
Right.
Start with invoice processing or level 1 tech support. Build confidence in the system. The autonomous edge is gained incrementally, not overnight.
I think that's really sound advice. It's easy to get swept up in the sci-fi vision of auto GPT running my life, but the reality is messy.
Very messy.
The book does a good job of balancing the here's the dream with Here is how you actually debug this thing when it breaks.
And it will break. That's the other key takeaway. These systems are probabilistic, not deterministic. They will make mistakes.
So the goal is to build a system that fails gracefully.
Rather than catastrophically, exactly.
So, pulling this all together, we are moving from a world where we prompt AI to a world where AI prompts us, or at least notifies us when it's done. We've looked at the brain,
Goal setting and memory.
use,
And the team.
multi-agent collaboration, and we've touched on the guardrails that keep the whole thing from going off the rails.
The autonomous edge by StoryBuddy's play really posits that we are at the end of the chatbot era. It feels like we are graduating to the next level. It's exciting, but I maintain a healthy level of skepticism about the transition period.
As you should. I think the human interface part is going to be much harder to solve than the code.
I agree. The technology is accelerating faster than our ability to adapt our management styles or our organizational structures. We are trying to fit hyperspeed agents into 9-to-5 hierarchies. Something is going to have to give.
That leads me to a final thought I wanted to throw at you and at our listeners. We've spent this whole time talking about how agents will change the work.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering how they change the worker.
In what sense?
Well, we define leadership essentially as the ability to guide intelligence toward a goal.
Right.
We hire smart humans, give them resources, and guide them.
Mm-hmm.
If we start doing that with software, if your direct reports are agents that never sleep, never complain, but also have zero moral compass outside of what you code into them, how does the definition of leadership change?
That is the ultimate question.
Are we becoming leaders in the traditional sense, managing a team? Or are we becoming something else entirely, like system architects of our own lives?
I think the line blurs. We might find that leadership becomes less about motivation and empathy, which are human necessities, and more about clarity of intent and rigorous logic.
What do you mean?
If you tell a human, do your best, they understand. If you tell an agent, do your best, you might get a disaster. We might have to become much more precise, almost robotic in our leadership to effectively manage the robots.
That is a haunting thought to end on. We have to become more robotic to manage the robots.
Or perhaps by offloading the robotic tasks to them, we are forced to become even more human in the areas they can't touch.
I like that version better. Let's go with that one.
Deal.
This has been a fascinating look into the autonomous edge. Whether you are ready to hand over the keys to an agent or you're gripping the steering wheel tighter than ever, it seems the shift is happening. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.